for Pitt. Intercepted by Ray Hubble, who may go all the way again. He's going to be cut off in the sideline. He was tripped by a man standing in front of the Winnipeg bench.
First down, Edmonton with the football. McManus going up top for Eddie Brown. What a catch! Eddie Brown! Touchdown, Edmonton! Penalty markers down all over the field.
Illegal substitution, too many men on the field, Saskatchewan.
From 33 yards out to win the 97th Grey Cup. Ball down, ball through.
What's up, CFL football fans? It's your boys at the Football A podcast here. Happy game day. It is Thursday. There's ball to talk about, but there's a third person on this screen, and once again, we have a very special guest, Chris Tymofichuk, going for a world record. Chris, welcome on. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to talk about what you got going on. First, give anybody who doesn't know who's listening a little background on yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me, and kudos on the last name. It's one of the best pronunciations I've heard yet.
Only a few tries.
I'm just a regular football fan up here in Canada. My first Grey Cup was in '91. My dad took me to. It was in Winnipeg, and that was back in the days when John Candy and Wayne Gretzky owned the Toronto Argos, and it was about minus 350 degrees Celsius outside. Your beer would freeze. Everything was frozen, but it didn't matter because this was the first Grey Cup championship that I ever got to. And afterwards, of course, things were different back in '91. You could throw a frozen beer can out of the stands at the players and not get kicked out. You could run on the field after the game was over and basically hang out with the players. And I remember that some of the Argo players, Matt Dunnigan was one of them. It was really fun and really made an impression on me that as I got older, grew up with friends and started saying, hey, let's go check out Grey Cup, right? The game. And we figured out there was a festival associated with it. 97 was the very first one out in Edmonton, is probably my favorite one. It was just so much fun meeting other CFL fans. Everybody's having a good time at Grey Cup. Have you guys had the opportunity to be at Grey Cup?
No. One day, hopefully, last year. So for this podcast, I think it was like week 18 of last year, I think was the first episode. So we are very, very fresh to the CFL.
Yeah, you will be welcomed with open arms across the country. Doesn't matter which one you pick, frozen Winnipeg, balmy Vancouver, French Montreal, the fans will just eat it up, eat you guys up. So make plans as soon as you can to come and check it out.
I shouldn't say I'm disappointed. I'm having my second child this year, so that's gonna take precedent here in October. So it's gonna cut my chances to get to 111 in BC this year. Ant's a little bit more free flowing, so we'll see.
I personally, I've committed to going if the Rough Riders are in it. At the beginning of the season, I know I talk a lot, but probably didn't think it was the most likely. But here we are, 4-0. I'm starting to get worried. I might have to look at flights here pretty soon.
Yeah, they're surprisingly playing well. Now, what if Shea Patterson is starting? Will you still go?
Yeah, you heard that episode. Yeah, I'm out on that, actually. I won't be supporting him in person.
Oh, man. Well, we appreciate the reference and you listening. Let's talk a little bit about travel, because that's the whole point of having you on here, and kind of the CFL community in general, everything. So you, Chris, you told us before here that you're from Winnipeg. That's where this journey is going to begin, to break the Guinness World Record, quickest to all 9 CFL stadiums. I know, I believe last year, Bobby Dubois, 2023, was so I guess take me through what the history is. Was he the first to do it, and now you're aiming? I know I read you've only got it timed out to about an hour and a half, but tell me what's going on. Tell me these travel plans, because and the causes then associated as well.
Yeah, no, of course. So Bobby, by the way, has been fantastic. I've been in touch with him. You know, some record holders, they want to hold on to things forever. he has been supportive, and we're actually going to meet up at the Vancouver game, which is game 2 for me. So you'll have the current record holder and maybe the future record holder if everything goes according to plan. But full credit to Bobby. He did this sort of tour last year, and I think he applied to Guinness sort of halfway through and said, "Hey, would you guys accept this as a official world record?" And they got back to him and they said, "Yeah, we do." So he will always be the first, and he's the only one right now that did it. I heard about it and I thought, what a cool idea. I mean, that includes travel across our country to all CFL stadiums, see 9 different games, different fan bases, just the fun of that alone. And the fact that you can do it as a Guinness World Record holder, why not? So when the schedule came out in January and February, I started playing around with it, playing ideas, going, this doesn't quite work. You know, Calgary doesn't fit in this slot here. Winnipeg's not, it doesn't work. And then it just hit me in July. And I had to look at 3-4 times the schedule over and over. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? And then break it down to the hours. So Bobby's record is 364 hours. If my final game in Toronto on July 27th finishes on time or close to it, I beat his record by roughly 90 minutes. So it's a very, very tight window, but if all goes according to plan, it should work.
And so there's you're biking, is that correct? The mode of transportation is biking. Is that the case?
Yeah, no, not in our vast country. If I was biking, it would probably take till 2030 to actually visit the cities. No, the initial 2 weekends will be flying. You go Winnipeg, Vancouver, Edmonton, then there's a bit of a break. And then really the challenging one is Regina, Hamilton, Calgary. So we got to crisscross the country back and forth in 2 days on that weekend. What's nice is the back end, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto are all within driving distance, 2 to 4 hours. So if there are, we've had some flight issues with the airlines here. They've had some strikes. Was getting a little nervous as they were trying to settle. They seem to have settled things. But the reality is there's things not in my control, whether it's weather, flights. We're still going to have fun. We're still going to raise some funds, hopefully. Hopefully it works, but regardless, we're going to go through with it.
Hopefully, like your planes, that joke landed safely, the biking joke. But I would love to understand more about these causes, because obviously, like I said, we are so obviously new to the CFL world, and I did a little bit of background on Michael Cuccione and everything, but the CFL Fans Fight Cancer also in there. Tell me about these two foundations and 2 entities that we're hoping to raise some money for.
Yeah, no, let me start with CFL Fans Fighting Cancer. This is really a grassroots group of CFL fans. It's not corporate backed in any way. It started off with just a couple of fans getting together saying, let's raise some money and we're going to donate it. And it just grew from there. So throughout the year, in different cities across the country, you'll see golf tournaments, barbecues, all sorts of things that people just want to raise money towards the CFL Fans Fight Cancer charity. I think 2 weeks ago, out in Regina, there was an online trivia contest for CFL fans, right? You could enter, and that was to raise funds. So it's the really grassroots effort like that has grown. And what they've done is, depending on the city that Grey Cup is in, that's where they determine that their charity is going to be. So last year, Grey Cup was in Hamilton. The group there raised over $40,000, and that went to their local cancer center. This year in Vancouver, as you've referred to, the Michael Cuccione Foundation, they focus on childhood cancer research. So that is the chosen charity. And during Grey Cup week, there's one event where all the fans go, a lot of donated memorabilia and merchandise and contests. And that's sort of the culmination of the fundraising throughout the year. So I'm happy to bring the awareness to the charities during this attempt. I'll have a bucket with me, and if people have loonies and toonies, which are our dollar coin and $2 coins, and they're willing to donate, that's $1 or $2 more that the charity didn't have before we began.
I love it. These kinds of things, especially when you're new to a community like us, I'm excited for. I think Ant's probably disappointed to learn about the online trivia, though, being a couple days late to that.
Yeah, I'm sad I missed it. I'm a big trivia guy. If I knew about this a week ago, I'd have been all over that. I'm kind of
Yeah, we
disappointed.
try to get the word out, and we will, right? The community just grows, it seems, every week, right? And as you connect to different people, you'll find all of these different tentacles reaching out on CFL different aspects. So it's good. The interest is there, the desire, the disappointment, but I'm sure there will be another opportunity.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. So I do want to talk about a little bit more of the journey in general. After we highlighted, obviously, those places. Is there a good place? Actually, I should say that before we move into a little bit more of the specifics. But is there a good place for everybody to go? We're obviously very small, but anybody else we can get the word to go donate.
Yeah. The website is childrenscancerresearch.org, .org. And within that, you can find an actual CFL Fans Fighting Cancer link. Or you can just Google the same thing, and eventually it'll come up to that link as well. On the socials, we do have the QR codes, and we're going to try and promote that as well. So to make it as easy as possible for people.
Awesome, love it. And when we post this episode on Thursday morning, we'll obviously be sure to include that. So anybody who gets a chance to run across this, please help out. Like you said, loonies and toonies, anything helps. Anything is better than zero for sure.
We will take dollar greenbacks as well.
I love it. So I do want to talk about a little bit more of your CFL background. I think it's very impressive. You mentioned 91 being your first Grey Cup, 97 being your favorite. Not the numbers, 1991 and 1997. You've been to 27 in total, and now you're about to go to 9 CFL stadiums, the 9 current. I did a little research this weekend trying to broaden my horizons and understand the history of the game a little bit more. Do you have a favorite that you've been to that is no longer a current stadium? And is there one that you haven't been to that's currently active that you're looking forward to seeing?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to see a Grey Cup in all of the stadiums to date. I think 91 was at the old Winnipeg Stadium. That stadium's no longer there. I think it's a shopping mall now. That will always sort of retain the heritage and the first with Dad and remembering how cold it was. But to me, there isn't a better party for Grey Cup than Edmonton can put on. They just know how to do it right, and it just seems it's on another level. Not that the Hamiltons, Vancouver, or Ottawa, everybody else doesn't do a fantastic job. It's just on another level. So I'm looking forward to the next Grey Cup in Edmonton. We'll see when that is, but that's the one I would recommend. Anybody that's never been to a Grey Cup, definitely try to get to one in Edmonton.
Ooh, all right. We're gonna mark that down here in my notes. Edmonton Grey Cup. I love it. And I've done a ton of talking. Do you have any questions?
I guess from your background perspective, I think you mentioned Winnipeg. Are you a Bombers fan, or do you have a specific team that you root for more than the others, or are you more of just a general fan of the league? Here we cite this picture. There's a picture of Rob Lowe at I believe a Packers game wearing just an NFL hat.
Yeah.
Are you one of those, or do you support like a specific team?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Anthony. I'm definitely a Blue Bomber fan.
Unfortunate.
I wear a Milt Stegall jersey. I've worn it as long as Milt was in the league. I took it off one Grey Cup and walked through the crowd, and nobody recognized me. Nobody said hi or anything. So it's not me that they're saying hi to. It's the jersey they recognize, and that became really apparent. So no, I'm definitely a Bomber fan. Living in Ottawa, I will cheer for the Red Blacks if Winnipeg's not playing. So, we cheer for all teams other than Saskatchewan, but to different levels.
If there were two teams that you could have picked to support that was anti-me, those are the two teams. So
Yeah, that's
you really
okay.
hit the nail on the
We'll
head
remain
there.
friends except on game day.
That's perfect.
I love it. I love a sense of community. Well, for this episode today, all we were planning to do was kind of take stock day after a lot of the accounting jokes in our last episode. We're through the first quarter, just under quarter way through the season. Would you like to stick around? And we're going to go through each team, kind of talk highs and lows, and then get out of here.
Let's do it. Absolutely. I mean, if you can argue that this is not the most entertaining league, I don't know. Nothing beats it on any given week.
I really do believe that. I know I gushed about it at the last episode last week, and especially I think even the one before that. I don't know that there's been a week that's gone by where I haven't been like, how do people not just give it a shot and love it? Because I have fallen head over heels for this league. Yeah, it's football in July and it's different. It's so good. I don't know. But well, let's just run down the list. Like I said, we'll go team by team. So we'll start with the team that I have chosen to hitch my wagon to after being the proverbial Rob Lowe NFL hat for a while. And gives me a lot of guff about it. Montreal 5-0. They have scored the most points in the league, and with one extra game only, Saskatchewan has allowed fewer points, which is 94 to Montreal's 99. Great comeback win. I was in a bad mood Saturday from a tough baseball game myself. All of a sudden, Montreal fourth quarter, I found some change lying in my pocket. I found them down in the game, and I said, I think Montreal is going to figure this one out and win this ball game. Sure enough, that's what happens. Montreal this year. Chris, you're the person here who has obviously seen way more CFL action. I'd like to know defensively, have there been many units like what Montreal has right now? Even missing guys like Reggie Stubblefield, and I haven't seen anything today. I haven't done my research on Dequoy. He was out for the rest of the game. Sounded like something in the shoulder area. But this and obviously we didn't even talk about it. Lemon, that suspension has been levied down again, which we did not know at the time of recording last week. But historically, I mean, what does this Montreal defense look like in the landscape of the CFL?
Well, there's a couple things. One, I've got to say Montreal is somewhat surprising. I'm still getting over the bitterness of the Grey Cup loss to them. Full congratulations to them. They were the better team, but it still stings. But what you find in the CFL is the really great teams have really great defenses. I go back to my Bombers years ago when they had a group that was dominant and they called it Swaggerville. And, they ran with that. And, any CFL fan that remembers back then will know what Swaggerville is. But this Montreal team, I mean, never count them out, right? And we have a hashtag in the CFL, no lead is safe, because those last 3 minutes of any CFL game can go back and forth several times. But Montreal just seems to believe in themselves that no matter what is going on, they've always got a chance. And they proved it against Calgary. And I'm sure there were some bettors out there that were already celebrating, the big upset. And lo and behold, they managed to come through again. So I think this is a special team. The Montreal fans know it. And I think the rest of the fans in the league are starting to see just how good a team this Montreal group is.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I know I told this anecdote last week. Don't think I told it on the podcast, but when I was much younger, was it 2007 that the Patriots in the NFL went undefeated or were undefeated going into the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
My mom can attest to this story. It's going to be embarrassing to say happened, but I was as a younger lad, a fair weather fan most times. I really wanted to see the Patriots make history and go 18-0. When they lost that game, I threw the TV remote. Not my proudest moment. Granted, I was, I don't know, what, 8 years old or so maybe cut me some slack there. But I don't know, this Montreal team, I love. There's a part of me that respects the greatness, and I know Ant. You give me a lot of guff, like I said, for picking the team that's been the best team for the last 14 weeks or so of CFL play. But right now, it's just like you said, there's so much belief, Chris. It's incredible what this team is doing.
Yeah, and they deserve all of it. I mean, they have not fluked out. They've played well, and they're undefeated for a reason.
I got scared I jinxed them last episode saying that I'd rather lose to Calgary, and it looked that way. And like I said, I found some $bucks in the pocket and figured it out. Let's move on now to what I'm sure could be a contentious team with the two of you here. Saskatchewan 4-0. Actually, I'm looking at the standings, Chris. Have they always done, I mean, obviously Hockey Canada, the point system, have they always done points in the CFL too?
They have, yes.
Okay. That's something I still got to get a little bit used to. Ann and I are both Toronto Maple Leaf fans. I would say him more so than I. I don't know where you fall in on that equation if you have a hockey allegiance, but
I'm a Jets fan. Go back to the Winnipeg roots.
fair enough. Makes sense. Makes total sense. But Saskatchewan 4-0, 8 points so far this year. And I'd love to hear some Saskatchewan glazing, as the kids say.
Okay, well, it's going to be a little limited this week with the whole quarterback situation. But like you just said, best points-wise, best defense in the league, and specifically the running defense, which we've talked about before, has been off the charts, just incredible. They can shore up the pass defense. I know they got lit up by Billy by Mitchell against Hamilton, but they can shore up the pass defense a little bit. They're going to be really tough out, regardless of who's under center. Feels like Thor's picking it up a little bit. I'm feeling better about the rest of the team each week, and if Shea can, and I don't, no, I can't. We're feeling good. We're 4-0. We got a good defense. He just said defense wins championships. That's essentially what it boils down to. And if that's true, Saskatchewan, Montreal, Grey Cup. I'm feeling it coming down the pipe.
I will say, Shea didn't look totally incompetent. I don't know if you would give that kind of olive branch, but 15 of 23. They didn't want him slinging it around too much. Had the touchdown run, 4 carries for 18 yards. Obviously the Emelis, if I can even get it out, Emelis touchdown. That was an incredible play. Just the stiff arm spin and score this week against Toronto. But Shea didn't look total like it. Cam Dukes might have looked worse.
I think Shea looked like when he was at Michigan, it was like playing Illinois. Or like they didn't ask Shea to make any great throws. He wasn't fitting balls into tight windows. He's making the plays that were there, which credit to him. A lot of quarterbacks can't do that. I mean, he's there for a reason. That's fine. But it's not like he blew me away. He didn't make any elite plays where I'm like, oh, actually, I'm feeling great about this guy under center. But the plays were there, and he made them. So that's
he got the win, and that's all the coach is going to ask for, right? And you're smiling. You're giving him a compliment, I think. Well, he'll take it.
Oh, I love it. Let's move on. Those two teams, obviously, without a loss this year. BC, absolute utter domination from start to finish you could say without the third quarter in there, but dominating so much so at halftime last night that I took my daughter and my wife out for ice cream, missed the third quarter. Don't think I missed much. The only thing that I was really disappointed in with BC, after I kind of dog walked them last week, and kind of talked about the defense not being there, and that maybe they aren't who I thought they were. And I don't know, I guess Vernon Adams took that to heart. I kind of wish he would have ended up with like a 500-yard game. That would have been sick, but I think he ended with just under 4. Leads the league, 1,752 pass yards. He is tied with Bo Levi with 11 touchdowns. Is Chris on the scale of quarterbacks, and I know obviously the CFL, there's a rotating window year in and year out. VA is a guy who seems like he's going to be around for a few years. Where is he? Somebody you have your eye on as maybe a couple more years in the league, all-time great kind of status?
Well, he certainly cemented his legacy in the last year or two. He's bounced around from a couple teams, never really got his shot, and now he's got the legitimate starting opportunity, and he's got the receiving core, and he's making the most of it. I think there were a few doubters at the beginning of the year. Sort of, they got their loss and said, "Well, maybe VA isn't really the elite quarterback that we think he is." I think over the last couple of weeks, they've completely proven that he is. I mean, it was Hamilton. Hamilton, is not an elite defense, but still to put up the numbers he did, and with the Grey Cup in Vancouver, BC is all in on him and the team this year.
That is definitely one thing as a Montreal fan that I will say is definitely in my peripheral, is it being in BC, the hype before the season, and now that first loss they've caught a stride. I mean, 4 touchdowns. McInnes somehow only ended with 10 catches, 144 yards, and 2 touchdowns after having like most of that in the first half alone.
Yeah.
Which I was disappointed. I texted Ant about the Hammer jerseys and the helmets. Such a good look for Hamilton. You can't have that kind of performance in those jerseys. But that can be another thing for another time. I mean, Holland's now at the top of the leaderboards in receiving yards, and that Javon Catoy has like not even been like, he's just like a whisper between McInnes and Hollins, and he's still, probably he's a great receiver in there who could get going at any moment. I'm a little bit scared right now, I'm not gonna lie, of what BC has going on. Let's move it down. We have a few teams at the 2-2 mark. Do we have let's start with Ottawa. Chris, you live there now. Ottawa. Ant has said many rude things. Whether on base or off base, that can be yet to be determined. But Drew Brown goes down. Not sure of his status currently. They're surprising so far, Ant.
2-2 is not. Let's not act like they're sitting out
You
there.
thought you did. You would have said they probably win 2 games all year 6 weeks ago.
I hear you, but they also got to play teams like Winnipeg, who stink, and Hamilton, who stinks. So we'll see.
Chris, you're nodding your head. I'd love to hear
that's a fair comment. I mean, the opposition hasn't been the best for them. Obviously, Drew Brown really gives them a shot at winning. With him going down, like you say, we don't know what the status is. That changes the dynamic a little bit. Crum is a good quarterback, but I don't think he's on the same level as Drew Brown. However, when you've got elite receivers such as Jalen Acklin, and I know how much he's enjoyed here, I mean, anything's possible with the Red Blacks, right?
You did his research. I could tell at least you listened to last week, which I can appreciate either way. Yeah, I don't know. It's not even his fault really. It's just the cut of his jib, Sometimes you look at a guy and you're like, not for me. It's not even.
Now that said, he did have an excellent game 2 weeks ago.
He did.
Kind of carried that over. I think there's still a lot of potential for him if the quarterback situation can stay healthy. So
yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I know our guy Snack Bites Pete, after we called him out last episode for his whereabouts. We put up the wanted signs, and then we got a flood of DMs, which is great. So he said that Acklin, he said he thinks there's more there as well, which I was excited to see. I'd love to talk about of these 2-2 teams next. The team that just gave up the lead to Montreal on Saturday, Calgary. This was a team that I thought was going to be my team at first last year, and then I decided to hold off.
They weren't good
Calgary,
enough.
it's true, yes. And then one more games very well could have been Jake Meyer, a girl dad like myself. Didn't have enough in the second half this last week. But I don't know, man. I mean, the way, and Ant, I'll let you, I want to get your thoughts here first, I think. Like, between Awe, Judge, like, they have the defensive pieces, but they just, like, I don't know, there's something missing. I mean, Tommy Stevens. Can we talk about Tommy Stevens? He made Montreal's defense look the worst it's looked in, I don't know, since what, October of last year?
Yeah, Calgary's weird for me. Like you said, they have the pieces, but they feel like they can't put it together. They've been really up and down where they play teams like, I think they beat Hamilton week 1 by like 8. They play them really close, and then they they whoop Montreal for a half. And they're a weird team. I can't get a gauge on them. Feels like I can get a gauge on Ottawa. I can get a gauge on most other teams. Calgary, I have no idea how to pick them week by week. We pick our 4 games. I have no idea how to pick Calgary every week because it feels like they like flip a coin and they decide what they're gonna play like that week. And I can't deal with it in my head. I don't know how to rate them besides average.
Chris, I
And
want to levy a question to you quick because you're obviously the most tenured CFL fan on this panel today, if you will. I don't know are we distinguished enough for panel? I don't. That's probably
let's
Ant
call
and
it what
I.
it is. Nobody's going to complain.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. Uh, teams like Calgary, who obviously it's early, anybody can go on a run. You know, Montreal was picked dead last preseason last year, comes out, wins the Grey Cup. Now they're one of the hottest teams of all time, I guess. Calgary's kind of in that middling spot. Have plenty of guys that can make plays on a year-to-year basis. Like, how do things change, or like what do you see? Is it just like more buy-in from like a front office year to year, or is it really about the coaching? Because obviously it's so tight knit that it feels like everybody knows everybody. I honestly am surprised that like anybody's ever open on a field and that like teams can score 30 points because you would think everybody's so familiar with each other's tendencies. Like, is Calgary being like, if they were to rattle off 8 straight after winning what I think they won like 9 games last year, would that be something that would surprise you, or is it year to year? Do you kind of have teams that'll kind of play the middle role each year?
I think it's a bit of both. With Calgary, they had decades where they were at the top of the CFL, right? They had the coaching, they had the front office, they had from Jeff Garcia to Doug Flutie,
Yeah.
a decade of Bo Levi Mitchell when he was in his prime. They were always the perennial favorite. They were going to come down. Like, they had to come down at some point, right? They let Bo Levi go. Jake Meyer has taken over. He's not at the same caliber. And the CFL, more than any other football league, is such a quarterback-driven league. If your quarterback's struggling, your team is going to struggle. If your quarterback gets hurt, you're going to struggle. If he's doing well, the team is going to do well. So I think Jake and Calgary have the potential to go on a run, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. They're probably right where they should be, and they'll probably finish somewhere there as well at the end of the year.
That'll be fun to watch coming down the stretch for them. Let's move on to I think it's my favorite way of any place to say with that Canadian accent, if you will, Toronto. Argos on Thursday. They'll be in Montreal. I'm very excited for that game. 2-2. Obviously, Saskatchewan, Cam Dukes. I mean, they had a chance to win that game. I mean, 4 turnovers. You're not going to win many games doing that at all. That's for sure. Dukes looked like he forgot where guys were. I wish I was such a good editor of video to the point where I could put up the one interception where he threw back across his body. He had a man wide open. I'm not going to pretend to know who it was, towards the corner. And that was one of the plays that ended up changing this entire game. But And I'll start with you here, Dukes. It was like it's the opposite of and this might come off interesting in the video, but everything was trending up for him, and it's almost like he started at the peak and now he's coming straight down. It's been pretty brutal since week 1 for Dukes.
Yeah, I dogged on him in the preseason. Hand up, I said he was terrible. He was worse than people like Drew Brown and some others. And he's, again, like you said, he played really good at the beginning. But that whole team is pretty darn good because, as Chris said, it's a quarterback-driven league. So when you don't have an elite quarterback, it's very easy to kind of fall off to the wayside. But Toronto, they fight. They're a good team around the quarterback to where they can. I feel like they can kind of stymie bad quarterback play from Dukes and wait for a guy like Chad Kelly to get back in a few weeks here, and then they can really take off.
Yeah, probably worth mentioning. They did say that they will be back to Chad. I guess I would assume coming off the 4 interception game, I would assume that Dinwiddie's was pretty okay with that sentiment. Kadeem Carey, who obviously we love, I don't think we've ever said a bad word about him. Once Duke started throwing the ball all over the yard, they kind of went away from the run. 11 carries, 39 yards, and a score. I'm not going to give Kadeem Carey his flowers there. We talked about Saskatchewan already, but I'm excited for Thursday. Toronto with Chris. This is another good one, or at least in my opinion, a good one for you. The way obviously the breaking down, especially early on here with the schedule, and you talked about it, kind of trying to plan these things out. I guess I don't know how much experience you have, but like, how does that work for guys? Are these guys pretty gassed already with the changing of every day? And obviously guys are, they're throwing in bye weeks, so it's probably a little bit easier, but something like Toronto, they're going to go to Montreal this week. They're getting a full week. Montreal playing Saturday, Thursday. Is that something where you might expect Montreal to come out a little flat, especially after playing a tough game?
You would think so. So that one of the unfortunate things in a 9-team league is you've got an odd number of teams. So everybody plays a short week at some point in the season. Ideally, we would love to have a 10th team and have a really balanced schedule. You wouldn't have to do that, but we're not there yet. However, you think that that's the way it should be. More often than not, it's the team on a short week that comes out and ends up playing better. So there's no real rule to it. And it wouldn't surprise me after last week to see Dukes come back, settle down, and play like he did in the first 2 weeks, and potential upset. That would not surprise me in the Toronto-Montreal game at all.
I'm very excited to see what happens. I'm a little bit worried. I would assume, I have not checked the injury reports to this point in the week, us recording here on a Monday afternoon, to be transparent, but I am a little bit worried about Anton Dequoi's status. But I don't know if Tyrese Beverette's going to let Cam Dukes do what he did those first couple weeks of the season, because he has been all over the field, and he is an alumnus of this podcast. So obviously I'm not going to say a single bad word about him. To your point, I think it's interesting hey, wait, we have somebody who can answer this question. Where is the Vegas of Canada?
Yes.
Well, tell me your definition of Vegas and I'll give you the answer.
Like, who controls the gambling lines? I don't know. Ant, do you have a better definition of the question?
Yeah, is there a place in Canada that is there a gambling hub of Canada where all the lines are set there, or like if people want to take a vacation and go gamble, they go there, or do they just come down to Vegas?
So the only places you can go, we have casinos that are either controlled by the government or indigenous folks that you can go and play the tables. But all of the sports betting is controlled through Vegas. All of the odds are set by Vegas, even up here.
Wow.
Feels like a place where you could get an edge, because I feel like the U.S. Vegas here doesn't probably have as much of a bead on Canadian football as.
Anthony, I would think I said the same thing too. And when I see an over under of 44.5, I'm like, oh, for sure got this. Do the over. and the score, ends up being 22-21. I don't know how they figure that out, but someday I'm going to find it.
I love it. The reason I bring it up is even with the short week, Montreal -6.5. I don't know. I don't know how big of a gambler you are. I know when it comes to Chris, for your sake, when it comes to the NFL and college football, home field is about 3 points, 2.5 to 3 points. You can basically attribute it to. I'd be interested to know what the CFL home advantage is there, but in the over/under, I'm seeing 51 for that game. So maybe they're thinking Montreal is a little bit more tired and rearing to go after they're in the short week with the Philpott Bowl, which Tyson. I mean, I called it. I'm gonna take the victory lap here. Philpott has been so good. Tyson has so far this year. After I said he would lead the league in touchdowns. I'm loving that take so far. Let's get to the bottom of the barrel. We're going to start with the only team in the league that has one win. That's probably a rude way to introduce it to a great friend to us and future hopeful Guinness World Record holder. But Winnipeg, 1-4. Do you just want me to let you have the floor? I don't know if I need to preface
Sure,
anything. No
say,
Collaros. I saw this is the only injury report. I cut you off. I was going to let you have the floor.
No, go ahead.
Where's the thorax?
I believe right in the chest, upper
Okay,
chest.
because that's what they listed Collaros' injury as, is the thorax, and I was like, okay, I thought that might be the throat. Maybe the TH is throwing me off.
I'm just guessing. It's just a guess, right? It's not a Dr. Seuss reference or anything. It legitimately exists.
I love it. All right, what are you seeing? Obviously, a lot of hopes. I'm sure Winnipeg, year in year out, the most. This is part of my research from this past weekend. The most championships ever. I believe it's 28 total, with 18 of those being out of the 110 Grey Cups that there's been. What are you seeing from your Blue Bombers there, Chris?
Well, I'll say we got to double check the research. I'm sure the Toronto Argos fans will comment on that. I think they have the most right now.
Oh, did I have that backwards? That's certainly. I didn't bring my notes.
Yeah, we'll double check on that and make sure we get it clarified. But as far as, insulting Winnipeg about one win, there's not a single Bomber fan that finds that insulting after last week. There's more of a sigh of relief that they weren't 0-5 for the first time since 1998, I think it was, which would have been disaster. So we got that win. There's no more Owen to worry about. Now we move on. Collaros being out, it's a different dynamic. Strevler, fun to watch. Man, does he play hard? You worry about that in a quarterback. How many hits can a guy take and still play? Behind him is an absolute rookie. So we're happy to get the win, but we need to get healthy real quick if we're going to get back into contention. That said, in the CFL, we're only a game behind Calgary. So that's a playoff position with another win.
I do want to talk about Collaros. If you could, give me the NFL comp to what his career has been, because we're trying to get our friends into the CFL. It's kind of hard without some sort of NFL comp. Obviously very decorated. What would his NFL comp be for his career to this point?
Off the top of my head, the guy that comes to mind is Kurt Warner. The blue collar style, comes in, gets the job done, wins a championship. Nobody gave him a chance in the beginning. He was written off. Collaros was traded. He was one hit away from having a permanent concussion. He's dismissed by Saskatchewan, and he found his calling in Winnipeg and has led them to the Grey Cup the last 4 years, winning 2 of them and coming close in the other 2 as well.
It's nice to know kind of what that status is, because obviously the broadcast talks about him in a light of like an all-time great. Would you say, I'll bring it down just south of the border to Mount Rushmore, would he be on your top 4 quarterbacks of all time, or where does your list stand?
That's a good question. I would have to say for ending the 29-year drought, he's definitely up there for me as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber fan. All-time greats, though, that it is quite a storied history. Obviously, Doug Flutie is up on there. Warren Moon is probably there. And then from 3, 4, 5, the list, there's probably dozens that could follow behind them in that.
That was a very diplomatic answer, which I can respect, especially because if you last 8 or 9 years in the league, you're probably up there in some of the record books, anyways, which is very fun. And I'm very, I don't know. It seems like Caleros might be on some of his last years. I'm sure the thorax injury doesn't help. But so yeah, I talked about the Patriots thing, just trying to appreciate greatness when it's around. It's something I'm trying to get a feel for in the CFL, especially when I have, little to no experience with it.
Yeah, no, I think you've realized it. This may potentially be Colaros's last year. This will probably be Bo Levi Mitchell's last year. These guys have done everything they can, and they're in the twilight of their career now, but that shouldn't take away from what they've done in the previous years.
I will back you up. Yeah, that was Toronto with 18 Grey Cups, Edmonton with 14, and then Winnipeg with 12. My bad. I got the two teams with the dark blue. Maybe the other colors are a little bit different. I got them mixed up. Don't hate me forever, CFL fans, but I think you're pretty good people. I think I'll be safe there.
It just means all the DMs you got since that comment, now they're gonna have to send another one saying, "Okay, you're all right."
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for not ripping me apart. We'll go to 0-4 Edmonton. Chris, what's your opinion of Trey Ford?
I want to see him on the field. I want to see him on the field. He's got potential. Let him play. Let the young guys play.
I love it. Obviously, Bethel Thompson. Let's see. I think what do they play on? Yeah, Sunday. I almost said Saturday. On Sunday, they'll have Ottawa. That's going to be probably a tough watch, but nothing better on a Sunday night than football, especially at 6 Central, so I can get to bed at a decent time. But no, I'm right there with you. If you get a chance to listen a little bit more, I've been on Trey Ford the whole time. I absolutely love what he does. An absolute treat to watch. And I am going to make you pick the I don't have a line for that game, but Ottawa, Edmonton, who do you got?
Edmonton. Yeah, Edmonton has played everybody close. Edmonton has played literally every single team close. Doesn't matter who they play. To think that they wouldn't, because the thought would be they're 0-4. Ottawa, by some stretch of God, has 2 wins. Ottawa likely will be favored by Vegas. Yeah, Edmonton covers for sure. There's no way they would cover against every other team and then they play Ottawa and they just crap the bed. They're going to cover. They're going to win the game outright. Edmonton money line, hammer.
That's a hammer play for Ant. I agree. I only see 3 lines up right now. I'm sure Ant, if we could probably find them, but yeah, Edmonton, obviously our guy, first overall pick in the 24 CFL draft, Joel DeBlanco. Would love to see him out there on the field a little bit more. Chris, you've talked about obviously Edmonton's history. What do you if you could get into the mind of an Edmonton fan, what are they thinking of this season so far?
Well, I think it's frustration, right? They've had a rough couple of years. They've been so close, and again, it's such a passionate fan base. They really don't know what's left to do, and they thought this was going to be the year for Trey Ford, and then they brought McLeod Bethel Thompson back, and he's played okay. He's been close, but they really do need to get that win just to keep people engaged. There's only so many winless games that you can support, and I think Chris Jones is on the hot seat for sure. If they don't beat Ottawa, there could be some big changes coming in Edmonton for sure.
Ooh, now I'm kind of pro Ottawa to win if it would bring Trey Ford onto the field. I know Ant was kind of calling for a trade. Have there been many in-season trades when it comes to kind of trading for a backup to try to replace a starter? I mean, obviously Trevor Harris. I think Saskatchewan has but it's is it a 6-game injured list? So it can't be 6 weeks. It has to be 6 games. Is that accurate?
It's called the 6-game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Ann has brought up, I think they have a bye week in there, so I'm sure Trevor would be healthy at the end of the 6 weeks anyways. But has there been a situation like that where a team has a guy go down and goes and picks up maybe the next best the next best guy?
There haven't been a lot of them, but there have been cases where, a high draft pick will benefit the team rather than keeping a backup on the sidelines. So it does happen. It could happen with Trey. It wouldn't surprise me if Edmonton does make a trade.
I wouldn't hate seeing our guy Caleb Evans, Grey Cup champion in Edmonton, green and yellow either. That's a color I can get behind as a Packer fan. We'll go to the last.
Real quick, an update on the line, because I did check. Again, not sure what Vegas sees here. Edmonton is a 3.5-point favorite against Ottawa. So seems like maybe Vegas also sees that Ottawa stinks. But Edmonton is a 3.5-point favorite at home, and I'll still be taking Edmonton.
That could change if Drew Brown becomes healthy. You have to watch that.
Yeah, that's true.
I love it. I love Chris. Chris is locked in onto that for us. Last, maybe least, maybe usually try to say not least, but Hamilton. Bo Levi, obviously preseason, a ton of fodder around some of his comments. He's here in Hamilton. They wear those beautiful grays. They do not honor that jersey very well. Yesterday, Stanbeck with a touchdown just right up the gut. The defense is bad. I mean, Bo Levi has had to be almost otherworldly in order to keep them in games, and even then it's not enough. I mean, 32 of 48, you know he's going to have to be throwing 374, 3 touchdowns, and turn the ball over. James Butler with a great game out of the backfield receiving wise, 9 for 108 and a touchdown out of the running back. I mean, Bridges, Tim White, 5 for 55 on 12 targets. They have the weapons on offense, but the defense is most certainly not there. I didn't really ask anybody a question. I mean, I guess let's make this the segment. Somebody say something nice about Hamilton. I already took the jersey thing.
I'll say Tim White is picking it up. That's my positive for them. He was real bad the first 3 weeks, like unplayable bad. He had the drop that let Saskatchewan win against them. He was bad. He had a good game last week. He follows it up with a pretty good game this week. He might be turning the corner, which could help them compete against bad teams.
Chris, what are you seeing?
You guys have said it all. Defense is awful. Offense is there. I will say they have the best, closest tailgate to an NFL game in the CFL.
Oh,
that's a very nice thing to say. It's very kind of you. Great segment for the Say Something Nice About Hamilton segment. Like I said, I really wish VA would have ended with like 500 yards. That would have been awesome. He just goes for 383 and 4 touchdowns after I think it was like 308 at halftime.
He might get those yards this week. He might get those.
He very well could. It's going to be a fun one to watch. I needed that performance out of him. We talked about last week about Fajardo being the front runner for most outstanding player, but now BC sits at 4-1, and VA obviously. I mean, Chris, I mean, you saw some of the Flutie years. I mean, he could throw for 5,000, 5,500 at this rate.
Yeah, he very well could. And wouldn't it be something to see Fajardo and him, go up for most outstanding player at the end of the year and have the 2 best teams play in a Grey Cup in Vancouver? I mean, it'd be fantastic. I know that doesn't match Anthony's Saskatchewan dream, but
we're 4-0 here. What do we do?
You're 4-0 here, dude.
Wait until Labor Day in the Banjo Bowl, then you can decide what's going to happen.
Real scared of the 1-4 Blue Bombers over there.
I think, Chris, it is very safe to say. Should we do you? I mean, I don't know how big of a gambler you are. Would you like to join us for this final segment with some
Let's
of the
do
lines?
it. Yeah.
All right. Ant, do you need me to pull those up?
I'll pull them up real quick.
He'll pull them up. We'll do a common segment here on the
All
Football
right.
A podcast, which is this is great radio. Please stand by because Bryce doesn't want to do the editing for it. So
I have
Chris,
them down if you'd like to write them down so I don't forget and so I can put my camera back. Montreal 6.5, over under 50.5. Winnipeg is 3.5, over under 47.
far too fast. You're going far too fast. What's the over under for Winnipeg?
47.5.
That ugly number. Next.
BC 7.5.
Minus
And
7.5.
Yeah, no plus again. Yeah, okay. Over under 52.5. And then
last.
we already talked Edmonton minus 3.5. And the over under is 49.5.
49.5. So Chris, how we like to do this. Ant, do you have the standings readily available, or is that a situation?
I think I have them in my head.
All right, awesome. Give me whatever you got in your head.
So the standings in the East are oh man, you lost me.
No, not those standings. Our season between the two of us.
So I don't have our ratings, but I was up by 1 coming into this week. The only game we differed was Sunday night, correct?
Yep, which I know I won very easily.
So we are now tied. Don't know how we're gonna break the tie with only 16 weeks left. Great running bit. But no. Yeah.
It's even funnier when you say it's a great bit.
Perfectly even. We're both over 500. I know that for sure because we had a couple weeks in a row where we went 3-1, or at least I did. But you had the first week where you went 3-1. So, yeah, we're over 500 and we're perfectly even on the year with 16 weeks left.
I love it. Let's get down to business here. Then we will start on Thursday night. We can each go around. If you need me to say the lines, I will. Actually, I'll just do it here. Toronto heads to Montreal. Montreal 6.5 point favorites, over under 50.5. You can also, Chris, if you like, you could take. I think you can only take. Should we say make this a rule? Only underdogs money line because favorites kind of a duh. But I mean, no lead. # no lead is safe. In the CFL, I have it written down here. Montreal minus 6.5, over under 50.5. What is your read on that, Chris?
I'm taking Toronto and the under. Thursday night, which is always a little different than the weekend, and I think Toronto is going to bounce back very strong.
Give me which one you like more. We'll do one.
I'll take Toronto.
All right, Toronto with the points. And what do you see in this ball game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be on the opposite side. I think Chris mentioned the teams who play short week tend to bounce back pretty well. And I think Montreal, coming off of their only close game of the year, I think is going to come out and play hard. Obviously, some injury news we're waiting on, but the preliminary thoughts are Montreal laying the points.
I'm torn. I think the over-under is going to be where the money is made. If you took this number into the last few Montreal games, actually all games this year, you would be on the under. I am terrified of some of the injury statuses. I think I'm too scared to actually end up taking anything on the over-under. I think I'm going to go with... Oh, man, this is so hard. I'm just going to go plug my nose and take Montreal minus 6.5. That is gross. I don't love that either as a fan of the team. I don't love feeling okay. I took all 4 favorites last week, ended up 2-2. So adding a 5th here feels like a tough tiebreaker. Let's head to Friday night. Calgary into Winnipeg. Was it 2? do I have that right? 2 weeks ago in Calgary, the first overtime game in the CFL that we got to experience. I would assume Strevler also under center on Thursday night. Winnipeg -3.5, over under 47.5. Ant, I'll throw it to you first.
I'm going to take Calgary. There might be some bias, anti-Winnipeg bias here, but specifically this year so far, their home field hasn't exactly been a flip. Like, you would think week 1 they got smoked by Montreal. Obviously, Montreal was incredible, but that was a home game for Winnipeg. So I don't think their home field is going to flip that. And I Calero's out, and granted he hasn't played great, but I just feel more comfortable with Jake Meyer.
All right, Chris, your team playing in, and this is something we brought up before too. Princess Auto Stadium, not exactly a tough name, which is not Princess Auto's fault by any stretch of the imagination, but you'd ideally not like that to be the name of your football team stadium. Chris, Winnipeg this week, what are you thinking you're going to see out of your squad?
Well, it's a good thing the squad doesn't do the business side of the football stuff, right? So we'll leave that to the executives. I think I'm going the other way. I think Winnipeg, for 2 reasons. One, they're going to go off the momentum they had of their first win, and they're still at home. Fans are going to get into it. And even more importantly, Calgary is still going to be stung by the loss in Montreal and having to travel again. So take Winnipeg.
They do go 1 day short. Calgary does, with Winnipeg going a full week. I think that day, Calgary and Montreal guys were constantly on the ground. This week felt like everybody got hurt at some point. I don't know if maybe that was just me who felt that way, but in Winnipeg, I'm going to be on Chris's side with this one. I'm going to take Winnipeg -3.5 on the points there. 47.5 being the total. These teams played to, what was it, 37 just 2 weeks, or no?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, 41 2 weeks ago in overtime. I did have Calgary money line, which was great that game, but I'll take the favorite again here. I'm getting nervous. BC, Saskatchewan. This is maybe my favorite stadium name, Chris. BC Place. That's where BC plays. In case you forget, you could probably look on a Monopoly board and find it because it's just BC Place. Saskatchewan, the Rough Riders, and your squad now goes to BC to play Vernon Adams. Probably his toughest defensive test to this point.
So again, a lot of our strength has been in the run defense, and I mean Vernon, he runs a little bit, but he's gonna throw for yards again. He's gonna throw for yards. But Levi threw for 380. Vernon Adams is gonna throw for yards. Last week I picked against the old Rough Riders given the quarterback situation. I think I'm gonna flip it this week. I really don't want to place my hard-earned American or Canadian dollars on Shea Patterson. But BC outside of this week has been playing teams close. 7.5 is a lot for a team with a good defense and who, with a backup quarterback, is probably going to try to run it a little bit more than they usually do, or than they did the first 3 games. So I think I'll take Saskatchewan with the points.
Thinks they're going to take the air out of the ball. Chris, I can't imagine what you could say here. I would love to hurt some feelings, but I'll just let you have the floor.
I think Saskatchewan suffers their first loss. The question is by how much?
That is the question.
They're going into BC. It's normally it'd be a home crowd, but Saskatchewan fans travel extremely well, so it'll probably be a 50-50 mix. But I don't think that'll matter. I think BC is going to dominate this game in a big way.
Oh, yes.
For what it's worth, I agree that BC wins. And the whole dominate thing, I think you might have taken it a step far there. I don't know about all that.
What you don't know, Chris, is despite Anthony's lovable smile, he has a very mean streak. I'm kidding. Nicest guy on the earth. Look, I've been the tiebreaker here a couple times. I'm not going to break the tie. I think SSK tries to take the air out of the ball. I think BC might try to lean on stand back a little and then throw some bombs over the top. I think the air coming out of the ball, this number's at 52.5. I think that is where I'm going to lean. I think that ball game is going to go under that number. Unders, maybe the worst thing to bet in all of sports. Hold your nose. You hate to see points, but I think this one's going to be played more between, the 40s than it is going to be in the red zone for the most part. Or BC throws, VA has 3 passing touchdowns in the first half, and it's not even a ball game. Something like that. Last, maybe least again, on Sunday, it's going to be a very leisurely game. Ottawa heads to Edmonton. Chris, you gave Edmonton their Grey Cup party flowers, so I will let you lead this one off. They are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 49.5.
I think under the current injuries that Ottawa has, I think I'll take Edmonton and the points. That is game 2 for my tour as well. So I'll be sitting in the stands, obviously cheering for the right team.
I love it. Yeah, Friday night, I should have mentioned the 12th. That'll be your first game in Winnipeg supporting your home crowd. Ant, what do you, I mean, are we going to get the first agreement here?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Through the first 3 picks, sweating because we have a CFL vet here versus a CFL novice, and we have completely disagreed on the first 3 games. I'm sure he will make me look like an absolute buffoon here by week's end. But we're gonna agree here, and I'm gonna take Edmonton minus the points, with or without Drew Brown, but definitely without Drew Brown.
It's tough. We know about the crumback. That was just before our time, I believe. Last year, maybe that was that might have been us when we first found the CFL, very close to at least. So we know about Dustin Crum. I've spent many a Saturday afternoon watching him in the MAC a couple years ago. I hesitate for this entire panel of very distinguished gentlemen to all be on Edmonton. So with that being said, I will not do that. I'm going to take Ottawa. I think Crum can get the ball to Justin Hardy just enough. I think your boy Webb in the secondary, that defense has just enough in them to keep this thing close. Within 3 is all you'll need. 1 possession-ish. I will be on Ottawa. For the sake of the podcast, I'm going to take 3.5. As I'm sitting here talking myself into it,
No.
I'm probably going to actually bet them money line.
Don't throw your money away like that. I appreciate you not giving Ottawa any bulletin board material. I'm sure they would, like when they're on TV and everybody picks the one and they say that's bulletin. I'm sure they would print out a football A, all picked Edmonton, stick it on the board. But I'm glad we didn't give that to them here. So thanks for that, at least.
You're welcome. We'll see what happens here. Chris, thank you so much. Any final remarks? I absolutely love this.
No, the pleasure's been all mine. I mean, obviously, we just want to grow the league. We want to grow the fan sport. I think you do that through, your podcasts and others. And it is just such a fun league to get involved with, to watch, to be a part of. So we just hope we see you guys up here on this side of the border at a game before too long. New child aside, absolutely. Congratulations on that. We'll accept that as an excuse for not coming this year.
All right. I appreciate that, Chris. Everybody, please, this is going to come out obviously Thursday morning when we normally release. So Friday, if you can get to your Twitter, which is at xpegger, X the letter PEGGER. Keep up. Are you going to be active on socials then, giving us an update or what's that?
That's going to be the main way. And just to clarify, XPEGGR. I'm not a very good speller. So that's what came up. But yeah, I hope to document as much of this trip as I can through video, through pictures, through whatever means possible. And I hope people have fun following along. I look forward to seeing as many new fans and old fans alike across the league at all the stadiums.
We love it. We're very excited to keep track. Do like I said, we'll post the link to donate, so that everybody can be a part of everything, and we can, despite having a very small audience at this stage, get it out to who can ever see it, because it is a great cause that you are supporting. And I hope that, one, we will tweet at you soon. This is obviously going to be a longer thing, if you will, not quite just into this weekend, but hopefully get to tweet at you soon that you are a Guinness World Record holder. Not only that, but we'd love to have you back on for the Banjo Bowl, because I will definitely love to sit back and listen to some banter. So thank you very much, Chris. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.